Hi, this is Father Michael coming to you from St. Nicholas of Grand Rapids, Michigan, here for this week's midweek reflection on this historic Inauguration Day. It is where I am, 11:20 Eastern Time. In 40 minutes, we will have a new President of the United States. And if you've watched the coverage, you keep hearing the same four words said over and over again. That is the peaceful transition of power. And it's a powerful day, a lot of powerful imagery there. I'm not here to talk about the inauguration today, though. I want to talk about a much more peaceful transition of power. It's not from one administration to a next. The peaceful transition of power, I think all of us struggle with, but we would do so much better in our lives if we could do this peacefully, but do it, is the transition of the power in our lives from us to God. Now, I don't mean that we're going to transition our ability to choose. We always remain free. God did everything for us to preserve our freedom. We're always going to choose. But what I'm encouraging us to think about is the peaceful transition of power that the church has always advocated for us, which is taking our direction not from ourselves anymore, but peacefully transitioning that power to God. And if there's one word that sums up that idea, that word is obedience. Obedience. We talked about it last night in our men's book story. We've talked about it at different other gatherings. We talk about it in terms of what the Bible has to say to us. God rest his soul, Father John Namey was always preaching to us the power of obedience, because as he would tell us, if you love, you obey. So who do we obey? Well, in monasteries, the monks and nuns obey the abbot or the abbess. It's very simple. We've been reading in our men's group the life of St. Porphyrios. And he talks about how he obeyed his leaders. He obeyed the abbot of the monastery, the monks that he went to serve under. Who do we obey in the church? Well, yes, we obey God, but through or because of our obedience to God, we obey our leaders. What they do is they don't order us around. They don't tell us what to do. As a priest, I don't order people around all day as a priest. What I do is I provide for those who want it and who want to choose it freely the direction of what it means to obey the church. Now, we all know what it means to obey God. It's follow his commandments, accept his invitation to be united with him in our prayer, in our worship, to devote ourselves to him in our fasting as a strengthening of our obedience to him, and to be obedient to his command to love our neighbors, especially the neediest of our neighbors. That's what it means to obey. Sometimes we need a little guidance in that, and that's what our church leaders are here to do, our bishops and our priests. We are here to help everyone grow in their following of Christ, which happens through obedience. And I was reading in this morning's reading from the book of Hebrews. This is chapter 5 of Hebrews, verse 9. He says, having been perfected, he's talking about Jesus, he became the author of eternal salvation. To whom? To all who obey him. He became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. That's how our salvation comes to us. It is the salvation that comes to us when we obey Christ. That's the means. You probably saw Buddy walking around in the back there. Buddy, my dog, a wonderful dog. People that know me know how much I love my dog. He is kept safe when he obeys me. If he starts to run off, I call him back and I order him to come back. And he chooses to obey. So obedience is something that is not talked about much in today's day and age. It's not something very much valued in today's day and age, but it is the very mechanism that the scriptures and the church teach us in order to find our salvation. We need to learn to obey. How do we do that? We peacefully transfer power. Just like we're seeing it happen playing at this very moment in our government. It happens in our hearts, in our souls, in the bodies that enact what our hearts and souls lead us to. We can choose to freely obey God. He's never going to demand it. He's going to invite us to, and he's going to give us the opportunity to choose to obey him. And if we do that, we become, as St. Paul says, slaves of Christ. Not because we've been enslaved. We enslave ourselves to him through our obedience, which is the mechanism for peacefully transferring power from us to God. So as we see this playing out on a political level today in the world, let's think about even a much more important way that this plays out as we peacefully transfer the power over our lives from us to God and seek to follow him through our obedience. I hope you have a great week. If you found this helpful, please share it through your social media platforms. And God willing, we'll see you in next week's Midweek Reflection.